Emergency pod. Plan to take this week off, but sometimes things happen and you want to weigh in. So let's talk about it. Welcome to Outsider Information. I am your host, Brandon, and your strategic partner here with OIAS. As always, if anything resonates, give a like, subscribe, and engage, not just here, but social media. Check out the website. Website is pretty cool. Drink of the episode is an iced tea. Got some hibiscus in it. Mixed a couple of things together. I won't say I'm proud of this one, but gets the job done. All right. The title was a bit of a tease. So, manufactured problems. What is a manufactured problem? I define it as a problem that is not naturally occurring, right? We see a bunch of those in a bunch of different work environments where it's just like, this seems like it could be easily solved, but it's not. And it still kind of hovers, and we'll throw a conspiracy theory towards that towards the end. But I was at a conference today, and it was demoralizing. So I go to a lot of different events, usually in industries that I am not familiar with because, well, you work with a lot of different people. It's fun to learn some of these things and you get the insights. But this one was different, and it was demoralizing in a different kind of a way for the people who were there because it felt like they were selling hopelessness. There were a lot of good insights, but nothing was helpful, if that makes sense. The information was good. It was there. It's stuff that I think a lot of people knew, but you also don't necessarily want to hear that, especially when the crowd, 75% of the people, were job hunting. And that is just a really bad ratio for a networking event or a conference like that because it breeds competition, not necessarily organic interaction, which really, when you are looking for anything, a job, companionship, you want it to feel as organic as possible, because if it doesn't, you're going to panic a little bit, you're going to press, it's going to feel stressful. All right. So manufactured problems. In this instance, the topic of the entire conference was hiring within a specific industry. And we hear a lot that, well, we're just not seeing enough good candidates, or we're not seeing enough of the candidates we want. But the theme here was too many applicants and the inability to look at all of them. And the scariest part was hearing people on the panel say, well, sometimes we default to using AI, ChatGPT specifically, to screen resumes. That is so problematic in so many ways. Not that people are doing it, but the fact that somebody would actually admit it. Leaders in an industry, people who are responsible for shaping organizations, have succumbed to using an AI chatbot to help determine whether or not an applicant is suitable to go forward. Now, that was the point where I walked out of that particular session, because having done my research on hiring practices, doctoral research on hiring practices, not only was that offensive, but it is the height of inhumanity, because you are taking away the thing that actually allows you to evaluate people, which is people. So why is that a manufactured problem? Well, if we go all the way back to there not being enough good candidates, companies need to ask themselves what specifically they're bringing to the table to attract good candidates. Think about dating and relationships. You hear a lot of people say, well, the person that I was dating with, they're not on my level, or they don't bring enough to the table. Okay, that's a fair statement. But if you're going to have a high standard, you also have to assess what it is you're bringing to the table. And if we're going to still relate it to dating, people think money is the only thing that people want, but there's safety, emotional security. There are skills. Can you fix things? Can you cook? Are you good with kids if you want to start a family? Those things matter when you are looking at a potential partner. In an organization, sure, you might be paying money for a task, but if you are working people 70 hours a week, the expectation is your phone's going to be on all the time. There's not a whole lot of clarity in what you're doing, and your environment burns and churns people out. Well, of course the best people aren't going to want to do that. People are self-preservationists at heart. And people want to at least have some semblance of success. So going back to the whole, we're not getting good enough, Good people exist, but if you don't attract them and you can't keep them, that is where the problem is going to be. But the problem has become inverted because everybody has now scaled up. When everybody is good, there have to be differentiators. And I want to take a look at a few of these really quick. All right. So I plucked 5 different job descriptions that we're just going to take a quick peek at. And this one right here is where you see the requirements and the preferred qualifications. So minimum high school, experience in a lab environment, corporate or school or technician experience, minimum of 3 years following written procedures and working collaboratively as a team. Okay, that's cool. Very broad, right? Preferred qualifications, ability to understand and perform. We can see all this. Ability to train lower level technicians. I look at something like this and it's like, okay, this is very broad and a lot of people would probably fit that one, right? All right, next one. High school diploma or general education development test, GED, right? I'm reading this thing verbatim, so I shouldn't. 2 years, accredited college university, engineering, 8 years of relevant experience. A lot of specialized requirements. So this is going to be a little bit more niche. But if we're looking at the experience qualification just at the top, that does open the pool up a little bit before you get to those qualifications. All right, this one. PhD in a documented record of professional achievement in the form of impactful publications. That is a very helpful differentiator. But then you get into everything else. Computer skills, Google apps, professional writing, problem solving, cooperative working relationships, productivity, ability to be organized. Like, those are very mundane. There's one differentiator here, and looking at that and knowing where I plucked it from a specific field, there's a lot of people in that field who would also have this. So that isn't helpful. This one, qualifications, 3 of them, none of which are anything more than just being a human being. Awesome. This one clearly leans HR, but a bachelor's degree in HR, business admin, management, or a related field preferred. What related field preferred? Then 3+ years experience in HR and or benefits administration. Now, coming out of HR, these are 2, just saying experience in HR is broad. Benefits administration, that's pretty niche, but either or, okay, there's a lot of people who are going to have that. Okay, so do we see a theme here? Right, broad, not too specific qualifications. Of all those are 5 different job listings, 5 different industries. There's only one of which I would be 100% disqualified for. I could make a case for myself in every single one of those other ones, except the one that had all the tech certifications. And when people are applying for jobs, that is what they are looking at. And in many of these situations, there's probably an 80-90% match, which is a good rule of thumb for whether or not you should apply for a job. You match all those things, you apply, and then what? You're declined, you're ghosted, you're left to wonder why. And that's because you applied, as did 300 other people, because it was so lax. So at that point, you're just hoping your lottery ticket hits, you get seen, you can go through the interview process and hopefully be the one that they pick. When the qualifications are that lax and you get that many applications, that is a built-in excuse for an organization. That is a manufactured problem. You not being able to look at all of them, that is not the problem of the applicant. You have a responsibility to look at all of them. To say that you have too many is dismissive and a little bit lazy because you created the problem. And I'll say this because I've said it before. What else is talent acquisition's job outside of looking at the people who apply? It's not their fault that the applicant or that the job requisition posting that was shared has such a broad variance that it's going to attract hundreds of people. That is the problem of the organization. Blame your process. Do not blame the numbers. Now, the AI piece is what really did stick with me because a lot of places are saying that if you use AI for your submission, then we will just throw it out. We are going to dismiss it. So to hear that AI is being used to screen isn't just hypocritical, it's a little bit deplorable. And there's some legally, ethically questionable aspects to that, right? If you're feeding somebody's data to just an AI machine, we don't know where that data is going. And as an organization, I think you've got a responsibility to protect people's data, not send it into the ether. That's what your ATS is for. Your ATS is a secure platform that houses that data in the event that that person wants to apply, ends up getting hired, and you can funnel everything through there. But if you want to demoralize people, definitely tell them that you're using AI to screen applications. It's offensive, and it kind of spits on the process, and it doesn't make people feel like they've got a real chance because the process is already hard enough. Now, conspiracy theory time. I have thrown out the potential collusion one in the past, but I will also say this: problems keep people employed. Think about that for a second. Think about the solvable problems that exist in organizations that don't get solved, and how much money or people get sunk into creating a solution or creating a bridge to just patchwork it. Stuff like this is fixable, right? I did research on it and I created a model. I've seen other organizations who don't have staffing problems like this because they're smart with who and how they hire. The optimal number for employment for your organization is probably somewhere in the 80 to 90% range. You're not operating at full capacity. You have some wiggle room to bring people in, but you're not at the very bottom and you're not overstaffed to where you're going to have to potentially offload a bunch of people with layoffs, right? So what are the solutions here? Companies, you need to make your job descriptions a whole lot better and a lot more precise. The topic today was that they use some of these measures like the automated video interview, which I actually did like when I've done a couple of those where you're just talking to a screen to weed people out. But if you have to implement those steps to weed people out, your description's way too broad. Your qualifications are not narrowing down on a batch of people, and you've got a glitch in the process. So job descriptions need to be better. They need to be more precise. The topic of hiring freezes came up too. And a hiring freeze is not an excuse to not hire. A hiring freeze actually is an excuse to do more active recruitment. See last week's pod with how athletics is able to pull this off in a way where we build our teams really into the future. You want to keep people in the queue. You want to do informational interviews, but you don't want to create situations or events like today where you've got, 3/4 of the people who are there who are unemployed and looking, because think like group interviews. There's no way to not have that space turn competitive. And if people are competing with each other for resources, you're not going to get the best of people. You're going to get the worst of them. And you're not going to create a situation where you might actually get the right person, because that person is going to be focused solely on survival, not projection. And that has actually been proven throughout time. So like, subscribe, engage. This one was quick-ish. Just had to jump on and do it. As always, I can't save the world, but I'm hoping that things like this do enough to not make it a worse place. So we will see you next time. Have a good one.